Right then, welcome back to another edition of Games X. Now this one is from the 7th to the 13th of June 1991, issue number 7. Makes me laugh because I think I started this series about a year ago, and I remember saying something like, oh, you know, I may be doing a couple of these videos, maybe 2 or 3 a week of Games X. Fast forward a year and I'm just doing now number 7. Unbelievable. It just goes to show, like, you know, all of us have got these grand plans, haven't we, for our channels and our videos, putting on and uploading them, and we never really get around to doing it. I guess because obviously we've got things to do outside of YouTube and all the rest of it. But yeah, issue number 7, finally. So, Lotus on the front there. An exclusive chat, I guess, with the team behind that. I know what that is. Looks a bit weird. And, well, you can see the rest. Outzone, Crime Doesn't Pay. Looks interesting. And then that's a little kind of interesting story there as well. I think her name's something like Caroline Machin or Machin. I guess we'll find out more later on. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Anyway, so straight to the news section, and we see Manchester United Europe. Now, there's Les Seeley on the front. Unfortunately passed away probably a good decade ago now, I reckon. Which is always very sad, of course. And he was still registered as a player. I think he was in his early 40s, player-coach. But yeah, very much a character. Obviously renowned for his spells, I guess, at Luton Town and, in particular, Man United. But there we are. Now, I remember buying Man United Europe. And, in fact, that's a lie. We were in... Where were we? It was W.H. Smith's. That's where we were. And I went in there in the morning. This is a bit of a story. I'll go through all this. You can look at it yourself as I'm telling the story. But, yeah, I went in there one morning. 1991, I guess it would have been. Late 1991. And I saw it, and me and my friend were looking to buy that game because it was meant to be pretty good, and, you know, we like football and all the rest of it. And, but I couldn't afford it. You know, I was just a kid, as my friend was. So I thought, well, what I'll do, naively, I will put it right to the back of the boxes, because no one will see it then. You know, which is kind of really silly. So I did that. I put it right at the back of all the other games, and then thought, well, maybe next week or the week after, if I save up enough money, paper round, pocket money, I might still be able to get it. It might still be there. Highly doubtful, but you never know. Anyway, later on that day, my friend, I think he had some money left over from his birthday, and he said, oh, I'm thinking of getting Man United Europe. And I said, well, would you believe it? I just saw it earlier on, here it is again, in the day, and I've hid it at the back in the store. And he went, well, let's go and get it. So we went there, and sure enough, there it was. So he picked it up, he didn't, you know, from the game that I'd hid, and we took it back and we played it, and it was a really good game. Now, you can see there on the left-hand side, and this is an Amiga screenshot, because there's the fans there behind the goal. Now, the Atari ST didn't have the fans. Everything else was the same, you know, the graphics, the playability, the music, everything was pretty much the same, apart from the fans. I guess that's because, obviously, it was a slight limitations, if you like, of the ST in comparison to the Amiga. But yeah, happy memories of Man United Europe. Even though it's Man United, then, you know, it was a good football game and, you know, brings back a lot of memories. So, Crime Bites, don't know what that is. Grand Prix, oh, that's a great game. Jeff Crammond's Grand Prix. If no one's played that, it still looks really good now. I know it's hard to judge from that screenshot, but honestly, it's a really good game. Speedball 2, absolute classic. Now, I think they put Speedball 2 on Xbox Live, well, 3-4 years ago, and then they removed it. So it must have been some kind of deal that expired, I guess, with the Bitmap brothers. Or something along those lines, anyway. So, oh, Silent Service 2, no screenshots, but that was a pretty good game. Submarine-based game. Hero Quest. I remember the Hero Quest board game. It was every time at Christmas when I'd look for, like, presents to buy for myself, or to ask my parents to buy for me, I'd always see the Hero Quest board game, and I was always tempted to get it for about 3 or 4 years in a row in those early 90s, but I never did. Wings of Death. I think I've got that. Alright, no, actually, I haven't got it. I did have it. I'll have to get it back. Pretty decent game. Some pretty good music, if I remember rightly. But then again, the Amiga and the ST, but, you know, obviously, particularly the Amiga, had really good music. So, no real surprise there. There's Paul Gascoigne, back in his Tottenham kit. Tottenham player, of course, back then. In fact, this wasn't... What month was this again? June. So, it was just, yeah, it was just a couple of months after he did his cruciates, didn't he, in the FA Cup final? Stupidly. Lunging in for 2 separate tackles. He was really hyped up for that game. But, you know, he ended up being a great footballer still, you know, going on to play for Lazio, Rangers and anyone else. But, of course, his life with, I guess, drugs and alcohol has kind of gone a little bit tits up, I think it's fair to say. But he seems to be on the mend. What's this down here? US Gold dual format tapes. Oh yeah, I remember this from like maybe 2 or 3 years before. But this is basically there, I think, talking about how some games were, well, yeah, US Gold there. Let's read it. US Gold has announced that all its full-price titles on the Spectrum and Amstrad will be available on a single tape with one format each side. What a great idea. I remember thinking it was really cool, you know, back in the late 80s when I'd pick up a game for my Amstrad and it would say something like Amstrad Schneider and Spectrum, and I'd think, oh, it was somehow really cool. I didn't have a Spectrum. I mean, a lot of my friends did, but there was something cool about having an Amstrad game which also worked on the Spectrum. And I had a few games as well for the Amiga which worked on the ST and vice versa. And it was always really interesting. Speaking of interesting, I used to love this game, Robin Hood. And this version made by Millennium. There's quite a few different versions came out of Robin Hood, various games. But yeah, this is kind of like, think of Populous or a Powermonger, a kind of God Sim, if you like, in terms of the graphics anyway. And they're pretty good. Again, another game I'll have to buy back. Let's check what was coming out back then, if it wants to focus. It doesn't really want to do it, does it? So I've got Metal Mutant, yeah, I remember playing that one. Elvira, or Elvira. I like the cover art to that. We might see that one of these days in a Games X mag. And there's the charts at the time, the Gallup charts. So either Beholder at the top, and you can work out the rest. The Turtles, Monkey Island, Toki, I did like that one. Gods, an amazing game. Great music. Mickey Mouse, Subbuteo, Golden Axe, and Final Whistle, which was, I was going to say Street Fighter 2, not Street Fighter 2, Kick-Off 2. In fact, there it is. Kick-Off 2 data disc. So in a way, these data discs back in the day were kind of like what we now have for, you know, DLC. In fact, here we go. Can you work that out? There's a PlayStation 3 in the background. DLC on there. So, yeah, it's interesting. And there's Toki. Platform game. I think that was available on the Mega Drive. And was it the SNES or was it just the Mega Drive? Possibly just Sega's console. So here's a competition. The Great 20 Grand Software Clearance Competition. And what are these, like anagrams? Have you got to work it out? So what does that say? Solve the anagram to find the software house name. Right, well, let's do it then. Well, that's Gremlin on the top right. Mandici, what the hell is that? I don't know. Car, that's Ark. That must be Mindscape. And what would that one be there? Core. P-Rim. P-Rim, what the bloody hell is that? I can't think. No. Not making a very good video, is it? Me just going, what is that? Mandici. Not my, I don't know. Well, I got 4 out of 6. That's not too bad. What's this one? What are the games shown in these distorted screenshots? Well, that's Lemmings. That is Xenon 2. And I think that's Lotus, isn't it? The first one, Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge. 3 out of 3, I think. Match up the names of the reviewer with the photographs. I have no idea. Alex. Well, none of them is me. No, I don't know any of those, actually. I recognise the names, recognise the faces from reading this magazine, but I don't know. Oh, look at this. I've just realised. Kind of gives you a clue. So, yeah, so we said Core, didn't we? I did say Ark, which is that. Imageworks. None of them. So which one was... Mindscape said that one. Demonware. Ah, there we go. That must be that one then. That's P-Rim. Empire. Ah, you sneaky bugger. Rainbow Arts, Gremlin said that. Impressions, Ocean. So what's Mandici? Mandici? Am I missing the point completely here? Ah, it must be that one. There we are. Dynamic. Unbelievable. Look at all these logos. Nostalgia, Psygnosis, Ocean. I used to love that. It just looks so cool. Sounds cool, looks cool. Brilliant. And then what's going on here? Oh, looks like the competition page has been torn out there. What's this? A fast book. Yeah, basically talking about... what is it talking about there? Just promoting games, I guess. That's kind of interesting, really. Oh, look at that. Unbelievable. Elvira. Or Elvira. See what I mean when I said I like the cover art? And now you do too. So I guess it was talking about how sex sells, sexploitation. You know, put things like that on the cover art and people are going to buy it. So, and this goes on now. I guess it's always gone on, hasn't it? You know, and this is, like I say, an article about how companies, game companies, use things like this as an advantage to sell their items, their games, or posters, CDs, whatever it is. But obviously, in this instance, computer games. So, I don't quite know whether that muscle clad fella would have done it for you back in the day. Maybe it would have done. Good for you. Wouldn't have done it for me. Neither would the muscle-bound lady and the dwarf. Well, the dwarf might have, actually. No, it wouldn't have. Gem X. I mean, is that really... Would that entice you to buy the game? That wouldn't. That would. And then, I don't know what this is. Oh, giving it all away. Yeah, this is basically, from what I can work out, things that game companies give away, you know, in regards to, you know, if you buy a game. And again, they do it these days, don't they? Get a free t-shirt, a free poster. But back in the day, I guess, you know, free badges. And pens, bags, hats, caps. Whatever else, for that matter. Just, again, to try and entice you to buy their product. If they give you a load of rubbish, it makes you feel as if you're getting your money's worth. It's just like limited editions, isn't it? Or so-called limited editions from 360 and PS3. So got Special Reserve. Seen all this before, I'm sure. Which is just basically a mail order company. Any particular bargains there? Well, there's a Mega Drive with Altered Beast for 150 quid. Fancy that? I know I don't. But I would have back then. The Lynx, 100 quid. And 70 for the Game Boy. That's not a bad deal, is it? You know, little carry case and all that stuff for that. Pretty good. We get the first review, which is for the Amiga, PP Hammer and his pneumatic weapon. Again, just like a euphemism, isn't it, really? So, I think it's just a platformer game, mixed with a puzzle game, I guess, to use the pneumatic drill on the tiles there and to, I don't know, uncover the gems or the crystals, whatever it is you do. It looks pretty good, to be fair, but nothing I'm going to go out my way to buy anytime soon, but eventually, why not? And it got a rating of 4, so obviously a decent game. Next one up, it's kind of a double-page thing here. The first one is The Keys to Marimon, which sounds like a song by the KLF, if anyone knows them. And this one's for the PC, also available on the Commodore 64 and the Amiga. A 3 out of 5. It looks like a bit of a sort of a graphic adventure cross between like a Zelda kind of clone, doesn't it, really? A bit of an RPG strategy game. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. Not really my kind of game, but like I say, it doesn't look that bad. Next up, we've got Outzone. This one is for the Atari ST, but also available for the Amiga. Curiously priced at £20.42. Why 42? I don't understand. Why just not 20 quid or 19.99? 20.42. Crazy. And it just looks like a shooter. And it looks alright, quite frankly. Got out 3 out of 5, in case you didn't see that first time round. How it plays, not really sure. I guess I could read the review. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I don't really like those big black borders at the top, or whether they've kind of made that part of the game because they couldn't, you know, get rid of the borders, so they kind of, you know, edge it into the game, and I don't know, it just looks a mess, really. Much like that sentence is a bit of a mess. Let's move on. Next up is Mega Phoenix for the Amiga. Atari ST and PC versions also available. 2042, of course. Common theme here with this price. A 2 out of 5, so they weren't liking the look of this one. And again, is that just a shooter, I guess? I suppose it is. Look at that for a boss. Bloody hell. Next up, this page is starting to come out. Psychic World. And this is for the Master System. For all you Master System fans out there, 3 out of 5. So, you know, average to good, I guess. I wouldn't know. To my knowledge, I've never played it. But that is that. Crime Does Not Pay. What a title. Yeah, I remember this game. I don't know if I played it back when it came out, but, you know, I did quite like the look of it. And even now, you know, it looks quite good. Ish. Bearing in mind, you know, it's a 16-bit game. And I think it's a kind of, again, a sort of a point-and-click adventure cross-side-scroller. 3 out of 5. And that one's reviewed for the Atari ST. Again, look at the price. $25.53. Super Professional Baseball for the Famicom. So getting in there with some import reviewing. 3 out of 5. It doesn't look too bad, graphic-wise. I mean, those shirts there, especially that one, looks a right mess. Look at that, unbelievable. But yeah, so that's that. Next, we've got gain access to all the latest info on your format. So a load of mini reviews here. 5 out of 5 for Shadow Dancer. What a brilliant name. I've said this before, I just think it sounds so cool. Shadow Dancer. Obviously part of the Shinobi series, in case nobody was aware of that. Next one is The Power. Commodore 64. 3 out of 5. Getting a 4 out of 5 is The Search for Kings on the Amiga. Oh, sorry, The Search for the King. That doesn't look too bad as well. Graphic adventure game. I love those kind of things, like, what was the other one? Police Quest, I think, was one. Was that on the Amiga? It was definitely on the PC. Even Leisure Suit Larry, the earlier ones, the later ones were just awful. You know, particularly like since the Xbox, it's just absolute bollocks. But the ones on the PC and the Amiga, the first like 3 or 4 were really good. There's World Championship Soccer on the IBM PC, 3 out of 5. And Disc on the Amiga, 3 out of 5. Kind of like a cross between Speedball 2 and Tron, where you're on this kind of projectile and you've got to kind of hit the things down in the background. So a cross in a way between all those games and Arkanoid in a way, if memory serves me right. Again, one more that I'm going to have to get back eventually. I'm always wanting to get back Amiga and ST games. Software City. Again, just a mail order kind of thing. Nice little poster here. Should I put it up on the wall? Nah. Magnetic Fields. And they do Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge. In fact, you can't really see it. Doesn't really focus in, does it? There's an advert for ST Action. I used to buy that back in the day. Big fan of the ST. I love the Amiga as well. I mean, technically I had the ST first, so I kind of prefer it in that aspect, you know, from a nostalgic perspective. But, yeah, I love the Amiga, and I tend to buy more Amiga games these days than ST. But, you know, I do have some ST ones as well. Tipex, load of cheats. Do you have Blue Lightning on the links? Do you want some cheats for it? Thank me later. Dead Heat Scramble on the Game Boy. Back to the Future 3. Remember seeing that with a couple of friends at the cinema in, well, probably this time, 1990, 1991. And Back to the Future 2. Brilliant set of movies. Absolutely love them. I've got to see them again. It's been years since I've watched any of them. Killing Cloud. And Barbarian. We've got a player's guide to, what is this? Ninja Rabbits. Yeah, I remember this. I remember it being a budget label game, but it probably before that had a full price release as well. But yeah, I definitely remember seeing it all the time in the shops for like, you know, $5.99, $6.99. But I was a bit snobbish back then. I guess some things have never changed. And I didn't want to buy it because I thought, well, it must be rubbish. It must be rubbish. It's a budget game. Which, of course, wasn't always true. But that was my thinking back at the time. Even back then, you know, I liked the big box stuff. And it's the equivalent, really, today of, you know, the greatest hits and platinum. It's like the cheap version. It's like a budget game or a budget version from, you know, back in the late 80s and early 90s. And I've always carried that snobbery on, and I don't like platinum hits. And like I say, it probably goes back to the days of avoiding stuff like this on the budget label. So we've had the Gallup charts before. Now this is the Gallup charts for all the platforms individually. So Eye of the Beholder, which was the #1 for all formats, is #1 for the Amiga. Panzer Kickboxing there, that was a decent game. We've got the Atari ST, Gods at #1. Moving on to the CPC. Dizzy, of course. Switchblade. Robocop 2 on the Amstrad was really good. So, yeah, not surprised to see that at #7. It should be higher. But I think that said new entry, didn't it? Yeah, new entry there. Commodore 64. Creatures, Supremacy. Shadow of the Beast. Next we've got the Spectrum. Again, Dizzy, or #2. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles at #1. Navy Seals. Yeah, some good games there. And the Nintendo, I'm guessing this is just the NES, isn't it? Gremlins 2. I read somewhere the other day that they're thinking of bringing back Gremlins, or maybe not just thinking about it, maybe they're actually doing it, and recreating it. Not making a third one in the series, or a fourth, or whatever it is, but literally starting from scratch. A bit of a reboot, as the kids say these days. It's not a reboot, it's a remake. All these new terms definitely turn into a grumpy old man. I can see it. What I'm going to be like when I'm 80 odd, I can't even bear to think about that. If I'm like this now, at 30 something, what am I going to be like at 80? And there's the budget label. Again, as per usual, absolutely dominated by Dizzy Games. So that is that, and then a few screenshots there of Swiv, which was the kind of, was it technically the official sequel to Silkworm, or maybe an unofficial one? Not sure. And then Speedball 2. Either way, they're both really good games. Oh, check this out. Now, I saw this the other day when I was having a quick skim through the magazine. Game Reviewers Wanted. How easy was it to get a job in the industry back in the day? I mean, just literally they're advertising, and all you've got to do is just write off, You know, with a little resume, with a 500-word sample review. In fact, there you go, there's his address. Send it off to him. Now, he's probably not going to be there, and I don't think GamesX... Well, GamesX definitely isn't there. In fact, that building might be demolished. Could look at it on Google Streets, couldn't we? See if it's still there. But, yeah, how amazing, how simple to get a job. You'd never really get that these days, would you? I mean, I know the likes of Edge kind of advertise, or they did when I last read it, you know, when I was in the UK. That was a few years ago now, obviously, but I know they'd review for kind of professional positions, but it's a lot harder to get a job now in the industry. But back then, it's like kids would have been, you know, reading this magazine. And it's unbelievable. So naive times. Kind of makes me, in a way, not literally, but in a way, kind of want to go back and then, you know, start writing to these magazines and applying for these jobs. If you fancy a job as an assistant production editor, going back in time, then there you go. So if we ever get a time machine, you know, if you ever invent one, let me know, and we'll pitch back up in the early 90s, every now and again for a laugh. Oh, check these out. Classified adverts. What have we got? Any decent deals? A Commodore 64 for sale, under 12 months old, data recorder, joystick, light gun. About 100 games, £99 or nearest offer. You can give Andrew a call there. Don't literally call him, or if you do, it's, you know, be it on your head, not mine. Game Boy, 9 carts including Turtles. Excellent condition. Boxed, good, because we don't like loose stuff around here. Okay, a little bit of a jump cut there because the battery went on the camera. Brilliant. But we were here, weren't we, on the classified adverts. And the last one I'll show, actually, is there. Neo Geo, NAM 75, Ninja Combat, Magician Lord, Joy Kid, I don't think I've heard of that one, plus 2 joysticks, 590 quid. That's a lot of money. You can get one cheaper these days, but it'll still be pretty pricey. But again, it just goes to show how expensive it was even back then. Crazy stuff. But I do still kind of want one. But not as much as I used to, I've got to be honest. But I guess nostalgia's kind of kicking in, and sometimes I do really feel like I want an AES. But they're pricey bits of kit, they really are. Anyway, so that's that. Dr. X, yeah, just kind of the local kind of sarcastic resident of GamesX magazine. He'll just do a lot of cocky sort of responses. Console connections. First up, if you can even work that out. I mean, look at this. It doesn't look... It's not even showing up on camera. But not even that. When I look away from camera, it's really hard to make out the writing just because of the template they've got in the background. That's ludicrous. But anyway, Solomon's Club on the Game Boy. 81%. Oh, this is just a bit of information, I guess, on upcoming releases. You could always pause it if you wanted to read it, but I don't really think you're that interested. Or maybe you are. That looks quite good. Or does it? I don't know. Next up, we've got Space Invaders 91 on the Mega Drive. 35 quid. 61%. Now, I had that on the Amiga and the Atari ST, and I didn't mind it, actually. I mean, you know, we're not talking 5 out of 5 or anything, but I thought it was alright. Just alright. Maybe a bit better than 61. I'll probably give it maybe 75% for the record. Bimini Run, if I pronounced that right, on the Mega Drive. Never heard of it before. 35 quid and getting 72%. There we go. Operation C on the Game Boy, 80%. Once again, hard to work out exactly what's going on there. It almost looks a cross between like a Prince of Persia and sort of a Midnight Resistance or a Contra game. But maybe it isn't, I don't know. That is that. There's some news there about the PC Engine, which is taking a fall in price. Yeah, the PC Engine, I see a few people picking it up in the community. It's not really on my radar, if I'm honest. But, you know, never say never. But anyway, more importantly, got an interview with Magnetic Fields. Trendy bunch of lads. Obviously behind the likes of, well, Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge, and a stack of other games down here, as you can see. First one up is Wrangler. Not really wanting to focus there, is it? Next up is Super Scramble Simulator. Supercars, brilliant game. Supercars 2, much better. And a great game at that. There's the original Lotus Turbo Esprit Turbo Challenge. Did I say Lotus Esprit Lotus Turbo Challenge? It didn't sound right first time. I'll hear it back when I play it back. But even that, hear it back when I play it back. That doesn't even make sense. I'm butchering this. What's this one here? Oh, there we go. Supercars 2, brilliant. And then Lotus 2, yeah, brilliant game as well. Really good game makers back in the day, and stuff like this. Just seeing these little emblems, And just, in fact, all these screenshots brings back so many memories. I did that quite quick there. You've got to have great eyesight to catch all that in. Street Talk. Never mind anything else. Street Talk is the greatest part of Games X. Check that out. Now, is that a mullet on, what's his name? Steve, the manager there. Look at his hair down the sides. Or is it just like the poster in the background? It's probably a mullet. Unbelievable. Anyway, so here we are on the streets of Newcastle-under-Lyme. There it is on the map. Not to be confused with Newcastle-upon-Tyne, of course, in the far right there of the map. But, yeah, let's check out some of the people. First of all, we've got to check out Steve, haven't we? Look at that. We only deal with consoles here. Oh, I wouldn't have shopped there then. Had to be computers as well for me. The Mega Drive software is the most popular. Surprisingly, the Super Famicom games come second. The Game Boy is also popular. WWF Superstars being the hot one at the moment. As for hardware is concerned, or as far as hardware is concerned, the Famicom is in great demand at the moment, and the Sega Game Gear is completely sold out. The Game Boy is selling well, and the Lynx, although not as good as the rest, is holding on. Look at that store as well as a little bit of a... It looks a bit, rubbish, doesn't it, really? But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was great. Maybe you went there. I don't know. Maybe it brings back a lot of memories. Geo 18. Let's have a look. There we go. Look at that at the end. Apart from playing on the machines, I like to go down the pub and have a good time, as I'm said to be a bit of a party animal. Really. Look at that, Julie. 26. Talking about some of her favourite games there. When I'm not playing on the Sega, I like to go out clubbing and going out with him. JD. Who's JD? Oh, right. He's coming up. In fact, let's show him straight away. So there's Julie. 26 goes out clubbing with JD, 21. Nothing wrong with that. It's only 5 years, but it does seem a bit weird. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just completely being unfair there. And there's JD. Ronald Johnson, 16. He's got an Amstrad, so I'm going to stop laughing because the Amstrads, as we all know, were the best 8-bit systems. There's Kerry Rachel, or Kerry Rachel, however she wants to pronounce that. Ghosts and Goblins, good choice, Kerry. Oh, that one. Oh, yeah, this in a minute. I'll save that for a second. Aaron Scott Williamson, 40. In fact, bizarrely, he looks a bit like Mario there, doesn't he? If he had a moustache, maybe that's part of the joke there. I don't know, but how bizarre. What does he say there? When I'm not playing on my computer, I like to go down to the local arcades. Right, so when you're not playing on the computer, you like to play on computers. Brilliant, that's ridiculous. Now, this bit is funny. Caroline Machin, 14. Now, it seems a bit weird talking about a 14-year-old girl, obviously now as a grown man. But back then, you've got to remember, I was the same time. And back then, strictly speaking, going back to 1991... I and pretty much all my mates and everyone else looked at that and thought, bloody hell, now that is one hot girl. I wouldn't mind going out with her. And it became a bit of a running joke in the magazine for several issues afterwards. Apparently, all these people were writing in saying, can you give me her address? Can you, be pen pals with her and all this kind of stuff? Because obviously they fancied her and they wanted to go out with her. Now, the weirdest thing is, I was talking about this around about a year ago with a friend of mine. And between the pair of us, well, I've got to be honest, it was my idea, just for a laugh. I thought, well, she's probably on Facebook. And she is. Now, I didn't send her a message and I didn't add her as a friend, but I just thought it was kind of funny just to type her name in, from like Newcastle-under-Lyme, put Caroline Machin in, and the ages all matched up, and it just kind of looked like her, but just, 15, 20 odd years later. And I just made me laugh. I don't know why, but that makes me sound like a stalker. So, yeah, pretend I didn't say that. But I guess I could do it with all these, couldn't I? Or couldn't I should say. Or couldn't you? We all could. We could go on Facebook and put in these people's names, just for a laugh. Anyway, so that's the Caroline Machin story. She became a bit of a cult hero, if you like, amongst readers of Games X. Arcade Extravaganza. High Impact. I remember this. Now, think of this. It's an American football game, but it's kind of really bulky 2D sprites. Think of something like maybe a Super Sidekicks, or even for that matter, just like a Street Fighter 2 or a Final Fight. Those big sprites on screen. And, but yeah, in an American football game, it was really good. I thought it was fantastic. In fact, there it is. Brilliant. I didn't see that there. As you can see, it's not the greatest example, but then you'd get these sort of digitised things where like the manager or the coach or whatever would come on and do some kind of animated scene. And yeah, I really like that game. It'd be interesting to see how it plays all these years later. Here we've got, what's this, Slick Shot? That's an interesting concept. I do remember playing either this one or one similar to that, actually. But it's just kind of interesting to see these all these years later. We've got some sneak previews here of first game is Falcon 3, 3.0. Actually looks quite good, doesn't it? I don't know if that's a PC version. In fact, it looks really good. I know you probably can't see, but the clarity there, and like the kind of the effects, like the sun flares, that looks really nice. Of course, it looks great these days. I mean, you know, modern games. So in comparison, this looks a bit rubbish. But really, in fairness, that's quite good. And then here we've got Charge of the Light Brigade, which looks exactly like Rorke's Drift. So I'm going to hazard a guess that... oh, look at that, I've just seen it. Where is it? I just saw it there as I was talking. The Charge Battle on Rorke's, I think it says there somewhere. It's not really focusing it in. But yeah, I'm going to hazard a guess that Rorke's Drift and Charge of the Light Brigade, which is, as you can see, this one, were made by the same developers because the gameplay, the graphics, it just looks exactly the same. So that is that. Oh, go global. Yeah, I think it's either, I don't know, the next 2 or 3 issues they stopped doing this, which is such a shame. They did say in one of the pages that they were going to carry on doing it, but they didn't. They completely got rid of it. But here we go. So we're talking about little videos that were coming out at the time. Belinda Carlisle. What else are they talking about? Just stuff which is on TV. A movie there. Which one is that? I'm trying to see. See No Evil, Hear No Evil. A great movie, really funny, although I've not seen it for years. And then check these ones out, I've never heard of them. The Rebel Pebbles. Now maybe if I go on YouTube and listen to a couple of their songs it may ring a bell, but I don't know. It doesn't immediately sound familiar. And they don't look too bad. Look at that girl in the top right there with the short hair. That was really fashionable, you know, back then in the early 90s. But I think they all look not too bad. Now here we've got all the stuff which was doing the rounds at the time. If you fancy a Casio PT480, and there you go, 90 quid for that one. We've got, look at that. T-shirts or jumpers, I should say, baseball or caps or just general caps, whatever they are. Yeah, and again, the American football thing, there was a period in time, wasn't there, in the UK where in the mid-80s and very early 90s, I think American sports were kind of big, but not big to the point of being on TV, as in making the newspaper and being on News at 10, but in terms of like an underground thing, it became a bit of a cult thing. I remember it being, you know, really popular. And then it just faded away and just disappeared again. But, you know, as I said, there was a spell where it was quite a big deal. I mean, look at that. That just looks rubbish. What is it? What does it say there? If you want to take it cool and easy, then a new Easyline collection of portable audio equipment from Philips could be up your street. 40 quid. I mean, it just looks dreadful. Check this out. Again, I said before about the Hero Quest. There was a period in time in the early 90s where every Christmas or birthday I'd look through like the Argos catalogue, Littlewood's Index, Case catalogue, whatever else was out, and I'd always like circle or write down presents that, you know, I wanted my parents to buy me for Christmas. And for a period of 2 or 3 years, shell suits were massive big deals. Everybody had to have a shell suit. If you didn't have one, you weren't cool. And I remember designs like this, and obviously the name SPX. And it's just funny to see. I mean, shell suits, I thought they were kind of good. I really liked them, really comfortable, completely highly flammable, of course, which I think is one of the reasons why they got rid of them. But I don't know, you're going to crucify me for this, but I think it looks really good. I mean, just look at that. By the way, if you heard a little meow there, it was the cat meowing. It wasn't me. There we go, and meowing again. Maxwell, what do you think? Do you like Games X? Yeah, me too. Anyway, and then we've got the refreshers here. Which are them sweets? Does anyone remember them? And I used to buy these by their bucket load. It was unbelievable. Or by the box load, I guess. Maxwell, calm down. And then we've got the letters page. Nothing really to write home about there. I think he wants fed. I'm going to have to feed him in a second. Do you want some food? Want some food? Yeah. Well, hold on 2 minutes. And then I'll feed you. And there we go. So, interrupted, rudely interrupted by Maxwell. What do you think of that? And at the back there we've got The Simpsons, the arcade machine, which was brilliant. So, look at, and again, an 0898 number. So, yeah, you could win the machine, but you've got to spend about £5,000 on telephone calls to get it. So there we are, Games X from, when was it? 7th to the 13th of June, 1991. Issue 7. This video has gone on a long, long time, but hey, if you like long videos, you do. If you don't, well, don't watch it then. Thanks for watching. I'm off to feed the cat. And there's Caroline Machin again. See you later.